Hello and welcome to True North EV. So thanks for joining us today. I'm your host James, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that affects every vehicle owner's wallet and schedule: maintenance. If you've recently switched to an EV or you're considering making the jump, you might be wondering how maintenance differs between traditional gas vehicles and electric ones, and what expenses can you expect, what service intervals change, and what surprising similarities still exist. Let's break it all down in today's episode. Before we begin, I want to remind our listeners that you can find more information about electric vehicles in Manitoba by visiting the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association at manitobaev.ca. And you can follow us on Facebook at True North EV or reach out with any questions or comments at truenorthevpodcast@gmail.com. Let's start with the bottom line. Overall, EVs require significantly less maintenance than their internal combustion engine counterparts, without hundreds of moving parts in a traditional engine. Many familiar maintenance items simply disappear. The average driver spends between $800 and $1,200 annually on routine maintenance for gas vehicles. With an EV, those costs typically drop by about 30 to 50%, depending on, what dealership, if you go to independent, over the lifetime of your vehicle. We're talking potential savings of thousands of dollars, if not more. But it's not just about money. It's about time. EV owners report spending less time at service centers and more time on the road. And when our winter months hit hard, that's time you don't want to spend waiting, especially with a dead vehicle. Let's put this into perspective. A typical gas-powered vehicle has about 2,000 plus moving parts in its drivetrain alone. So in the engine alone, there's about over 2,000 parts. An EV, closer to 20. That's a 99% reduction in potential wear points. In practical terms, this means fewer things you can break, wear out, or need adjustment. Now, let's talk about what maintenance items you can kiss goodbye with when you go electric. First and foremost, the very common one, oil changes. Perhaps the most obvious difference. No engine oil means no more seasonal oil changes or those little reminder stickers on your windshield. Now, don't get me wrong, there is still oil in the motor. It's usually I believe it's transmission fluid in there, but there is a lubricant in your motor. You just don't have to change it. So for most Canadians driving 20,000 kilometers annually, that's 2 to 4 fewer service visits per year, at an average cost of about $70 to $100 per oil change. It could be even more if you got a bigger vehicle. You're already saving $280 to $400 annually. Plus, no more sitting around waiting for it, especially in those little quick oil change places that look sketchy. Going to be interesting seeing what those guys switch over to. Engine-related maintenance. No more air filters, spark plugs, timing belts, fuel filters or fuel pumps. The complex combustion system with its multitude of potential failure points, gone. A typical ICE vehicle needs spark plug replacements every 100,000 kilometers at about $300 to $500. Timing belt replacements at similar intervals costing $500 to $1,000. Fuel system maintenance. You're looking at costing hundreds of dollars, potentially more, thousands of dollars. None of these apply to your EV. Exhaust system. Mufflers, catalytic converters, oxygen sensors, and exhaust pipes don't exist in EVs. No more worries about expensive catalytic converter replacements, a growing problem in many Canadian cities where theft of these has become common. In Winnipeg alone, we've seen a 40% increase in catalytic converter thefts in the past year. Replacement cost is often $1,500 to $3,000, maybe more. And actually, I know my massage therapist, she got hers stolen, and it took, I believe, 3 months to get a new one. Transmission service. Most EVs Use a simple single-speed transmission, eliminating the need for transmission fluid changes and the potential for costly transmission repairs down the road. Automatic transmission flushes typically cost about $150 to $300 every 60 to 100,000 kilometers, and a full transmission replacement can run $3,000 to $7,000. With an EV, this entire system is simplified to the point where that many manufacturers don't even list it, transmission maintenance, in their service schedule. Emission testing. Now, most provinces, I believe, have gotten out of that, but if you do emission testing, EV owners never have to worry about that. Even if they start doing emission testing, you don't have to worry about it. In provinces that do require testing, it saves you both time and potential repair costs if your vehicle fails. Common emission repairs include oxygen sensors, $200 to $300, or catalytic converters, which again, thousands of dollars, are simply not a concern for EV owners. Belts and hoses. The serpentine belt, timing belt, various coolant hoses, and vacuum lines are all absent in an EV. These items typically need replacement every 60 to 100,000 kilometers and can cause catastrophic engine damage if they fail unexpectedly. The simplified cooling systems in EVs have fewer potential leak points and failure modes. Think about the peace of mind alone for that. How many of us have had the moment of panic when the check engine light comes on during a road trip through rural Canada? With an EV, many of those anxiety-inducing scenarios don't even exist. Now, despite all these differences, some maintenance still remains similar. So tires. EVs still need regular tire rotations, alignments, and eventual replacements. In fact, due to the higher weight and instant torque of many EVs, tire wear can sometimes be accelerated. Drivers should still plan for seasonal tire changes too. Winter tires remain essential across most of our provinces. Speaking of winter tires, this is one area where proper maintenance is perhaps even more important for EVs. The right winter tires can help mitigate some of the range loss experienced in cold weather by reducing rolling resistance. I recommend dedicated winter tires rather than all seasons, especially here in Manitoba where our winters aren't the greatest. Although, just remember, with the low rolling resistance tires, they also usually equate to less traction. So it is a give and take on what kind of is your priority, what your situation is. Some EV owners report 15 to 20% faster tire wear due to the higher torque and weight. So budget accordingly and consider investing in higher quality tires with good warranties. Especially new EV owners, that instant torque it's awesome. You just want to try it out. You gotta kind of think accordingly. That your tires are taking a little bit more of a beating for it. Brakes. While EVs use regenerative braking that reduces wear on brake pads, they still have traditional friction brakes that require inspection and occasional service. The good news, many EV owners report their brake pads lasting 2-3 times longer than gas vehicles, sometimes even longer. However, the extended lifespan creates a different issue. Brake systems can develop corrosion or seize from lack of use, especially in our salt-heavy winter environments. Regular brake inspections remain important, and your technician might recommend occasionally using friction brakes by turning off your regen. That's kind of what we also sometimes we recommend if you're starting to hear noise, find a lonely road, turn off the regen, get up to, 60, 70 kilometers an hour, put it in neutral, and use your brakes to keep everything working properly. Me, myself, when my vehicles get their tires switched over from all seasons to winters, I usually have them also do a quick brake maintenance. So kind of clean it up, lubricate everything. Nice and simple. Suspension and steering. Our famous Canadian potholes affect all vehicles equally. Components like shock absorbers, control arms, and ball joints still need regular inspection and occasional replacement. Manitoba's freeze-thaw cycles are particularly brutal on suspension components, so annual inspection remains important regardless of drivetrain. Especially potholes also like to destroy those steel rims. I know my Kona, I had steel rims for our winter tires, and I actually managed to bend the rim, in a pothole. So something to be wary of. Cabin filters and wipers. These basic maintenance items remain unchanged. You'll still need to replace cabin air filters and wiper blades on a regular schedule. In our dusty prairie summers and snowy winters, cabin filters might actually need more frequent replacements than the manufacturer recommends. 12-volt batteries. Most EVs still have a traditional 12-volt battery for running accessories, and these typically need replacement every 3 to 5 years, just like a gas vehicle. This might seem counterintuitive, but even advanced EVs rely on this conventional battery to power up the main systems before the high voltage battery takes over. And most of the time you'll know when your 12-volt battery needs replacement. It's gonna weird stuff starts happening, it seems. So it kind of gives you a little bit of warning. Body and paint. Cosmetic maintenance stays consistent too. Regular washing, especially important in winter to remove road salt, waxing, and paint touch-ups remain important for preserving your vehicle's appearance and resale value. Now, let's talk about maintenance items that are a little unique to EVs. Battery health. So the high voltage battery pack is your EV's most valuable component. While it requires no regular maintenance, software updates may occasionally optimize battery management. Most manufacturers recommend keeping your battery charged between 20 and 80% for daily use to maximize longevity, particularly important during our extreme Canadian temperature swings. To maximize your battery life in our climate, considering these practices. Limit your DC fast charging, especially in extreme cold below minus 20. When possible, precondition the battery while it's still connected to a charger. Use scheduled charging to finish charging shortly before departure. Park in garages or sheltered areas when available, particularly during extreme weather. Although the batteries do last. My 2014 Nissan Leaf, as you guys have, if you've listened for a while, know, it has over 190,000 kilometers on it, and it still has about 73% of its battery life. Manufacturers kind of call the batteries dead at 70%. They're still very usable, still fine to keep going. They just don't have as much range. But for their warranty purposes, it's usually about 70%. Cooling system. EVs have sophisticated cooling systems for their battery packs and electronics. These systems require periodic inspection and coolant changes, though at much longer intervals than engine coolant, typically every 5 years or 100,000 kilometers. The cooling system in an EV serves a different purpose than in an ICE vehicle. Rather than managing extreme combustion temperatures, it's designed to keep the battery at optimal operating temperature, not too hot during fast charging and not too cold during winter operation. Tesla's Model 3 and Y, popular choices in Manitoba, use a glycol-based coolant similar to traditional vehicles, but in a much more complex system that integrates with the cabin heating. And so, with that, it also kind of goes if your heat or air conditioning isn't working inside the cabin, it's probably not doing its job keeping the battery nice. The batteries want to be basically at body temperature. That's kind of where they're happy, which I've been told, is 30 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Celsius, somewhere in there. Software updates. Unlike traditional vehicles, EVs often receive software updates that can improve efficiency, add features, or fix bugs. Some of those require dealer visits, though a lot more manufacturers are starting to automatically do over-the-air updates. Those updates aren't just adding entertainment features, they can fundamentally change how your vehicle performs. For example, several manufacturers have released updates that improve range, charging speed, or cold weather performance, all particularly valuable improvements for Canadian drivers. I recommend setting your vehicle, if it has it, to automatically download and install updates when available. Now, your charging equipment, especially at home charging equipment should be inspected periodically for wear, particularly the charging cable and connectors. During Canadian winters, keep connections clean and free of ice and snow buildup. For outdoor charging stations, inspect the cable for cracking or wear, especially after our harsh winters. The electrical connection between your home charger and your electrical panel should be inspected by a licensed electrician every 5 years or so to ensure all connections remain tight and safe. This seems to be the biggest thing with when you hear about EV fires. It's usually from the plug-in portion of it. With the charge rates and all that being much higher, being held a lot longer, they seem to loosen the bolts off or nuts off and all that. So stuff gets loose inside. So it's great to have somebody look at it occasionally and just make sure everything's staying nice and tight. You don't want to have a fire. High voltage system. Well sealed and maintenance free, the high voltage system in your EV should be inspected by qualified technicians during regular service visits. This is especially true for any sort of collision, no matter how minor. Most EVs have sophisticated self-diagnostic systems that will alert you to any issues with the high voltage components, and they'll usually give you quite a bit of warning, telling you to pull over or whatever, right? Find a safe place. Now, our climate creates unique maintenance considerations for EV owners. With your winter battery management, cold temperatures temporarily reduce range, but they don't necessarily harm the battery. However, using DC fast charging when the battery is very cold can potentially accelerate degradation. Many newer EVs have battery preconditioning features that help mitigate this issue. Especially if you're driving on the highway, on a minus 20, minus 30 day, it's cooling your battery off even more. So just something to be aware of. In Manitoba, where minus 30 days are common, many EV owners report 20 to 40% range reduction in extreme cold. This isn't a maintenance issue per se, but understanding this temporary limitation is important for winter driving plans. To minimize the impact, I recommend keeping your EV plugged in overnight during extremely cold weather, even when fully charged, to allow the battery management to maintain that optimal temperature, and using scheduled departures that warm the battery and cabin while still connected to power. When possible, parking in a garage or to maintain a more stable battery temperature. Undercarriage protection. Road salt remains a concern for all vehicles. EVs typically have well-sealed battery components, but annual undercarriage and cleaning and inspection remain important in provinces that heavily salt roads. So what I hear is out east, they like their salt even more than us. So you might want to give it a real good cleaning come springtime, just to help get rid of all that salt. Cabin heating efficiency. Heat pump systems in newer EVs are more efficient than resistive heaters, but may require occasional service checks to ensure they're operating at peak efficiency when you need them most during the minus 30 days. Modern EVs increasingly use heat pump technology similar to home heating systems rather than simple resistive heating elements. These systems can be up to 3 times more efficient, but have more components that need occasional inspections. If you notice reduced heating performance or efficiency, this might indicate the heat pump needs servicing, something to mention during your regular maintenance visit. That can even be something, it could be something as minor as the radiator needs like cleaning. Bunch of leaves, gunk have gotten into the little, if you've ever looked at the radiator, there's little fins almost, so it might just need a really good cleaning. Winter tires and wheel bearings. The weight distribution of EVs differs from conventional vehicles, which can affect tire wear patterns. Additionally, the instant torque delivery can place extra stress on wheel bearings, particularly in vehicles with optional performance configurations. Annual wheel bearing inspections are recommended, especially for vehicles regularly driven on rough roads. So, how often should Canadian EV owners expect to visit service centers? Most EV manufacturers recommend a basic inspection every 12 to 16,000 kilometers. This typically includes tire rotation, brake inspection, battery health check, suspension inspection, and fluid level checks, your windshield washer, brake fluid, coolant. So basically, when you go to swap your tires over from winter to summer and back. This is significantly simpler than the multi-point inspections for gas vehicles. Let's look at some specific manufacturer recommendations. Tesla recommends tire rotations every 10 to 12,000 kilometers and a basic inspection annually. Chevy Bolt EV suggests a service visit every 12,000 kilometers for tire rotation and inspection. Ford Mustang Mach-E has a 12,000 kilometer service interval for basic maintenance. Hyundai Kona Electric follows a similar 12,000 schedule. A common concern among new EV owners is service availability. While this was a valid concern a few years ago, the situation has improved dramatically. In Manitoba alone, the number of EV certified service centers has tripled in the past 2 years. Most dealerships now have at least one EV certified technician, and independent shops are rapidly catching up. I like to use my independent shop. Great guy. Most EVs also have excellent diagnostic systems that can alert you to potential issues before they become serious problems, potentially saving you from roadside breakdown during the Prairie Province blizzards. Many newer models can even schedule service appointments automatically when they detect an issue developing. Now, let's talk dollars and cents. How do the maintenance costs really compare over the lifetime of the vehicle? For a typical midsize vehicle, driven 20,000 kilometers annually over 8 years, with your ICE vehicle maintenance costs, you're going to do an oil change about 3 to 4 times a year, $1,600 to $2,400. Engine-related maintenance, spark plugs, filters, belts, you got $1,200 to $2,000. Transmission service, $800 to $1,200. Exhaust system, $600 to $1,500. Brakes, you got more frequent replacements on those, so $1,000 to $1,500. Fuel system cleaning and service, $400 to $600. Engine air filters, $200 to $300. Cooling system service, $400 to $600. So you're looking at approximately $6,200 to $10,000. And it's probably going to be a lot more now. So these are kind of the numbers I've been seeing, but I know even the places I'm going to, just the labor cost now is about $150 and up an hour. For your EV maintenance costs, you got your battery system checks, $400 to $800. That's it if they do it. I know I haven't had those really done on any of mine. They kind of look at it while they do all the other inspections. Brake service, less frequent, so $400 to $600. Cooling system, $300 to $500. Regular inspections, $1,000 to $1,500. But more shops are including just a full inspection. Like the shop I use, it's a EV mate package. So basically tire rotations, brake inspections, lubricating, full inspection of the vehicle, and then kind of go from there, right? So that's all kind of included. So it's not that extra $1,000 to $1,500. Tire rotation and replacements. Now, this could get, I've heard numbers that are lower, and I've heard numbers that are quite a bit higher. But I'm going to go with the $1,200 to $1,800, depending on what you got. And a 12-volt battery replacement, you're looking at about $200 to $300, for a total cost of about $3,500 to $5,500. That's saving you $2,700 to $4,600 over 8 years. So not insignificant when you're calculating just the cost of ownership. These figures are based on average service costs across Manitoba and neighboring provinces. Rural owners might face higher costs due to fewer service options, while urban drivers might find more competitive pricing. What's interesting is how these savings stack with the operational cost savings from electricity versus fuel. At current Manitoba electricity rates, the average EV costs approximately $400 to $500 per year to charge for typical driving distances. Compare that to $2,000 to $3,000 in fuel for an equivalent gas vehicle, and the combined operational and maintenance savings can reach $3,500 a year. For Manitoba residents specifically, these savings are enhanced by Manitoba Hydro's clean and relatively low-cost electricity. At approximately 9 cents per kilowatt, we have some of the most affordable EV charging in North America. This means our provincial return on investment on EV ownership is often better than the national average. That wraps up our dive into EV maintenance. The bottom line, your electric vehicle will likely spend less time in the shop and more time on the road, saving you both time, money, and inconvenience along the way. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to True North EV wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and share with a friend who might be considering making the switch to electric. And for more information about electric vehicles in Manitoba, visit the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association at manitobaev.ca, and you can follow and reach out to us at True North EV podcast at gmail.com. Feel free to drop any questions, or if you have a topic you'd like me to talk about, feel free to reach out to me. And remember, go check out Bodhi at Kilowatt. Way smarter, way more knowledgeable, and way more reliable. He's putting out 2 to 3 episodes a week, along with his other podcasts that he's got. Go check out Kilowatt Podcast. And feel free to reach out and have a great week.